All right, by now, you guys have heard the news that the Giants have benched Daniel Jones for Tommy DeVito. Well, Brian Daboll just finished up addressing the media, so let's bring in our New York Post Giants beat writer, Paul Schwartz, because this news kind of threw most of us off this morning. We're going to break this thing down. Paul, thanks for jumping on with us in such short notice. You were just on the call, the Zoom call with Daboll. We're going to start with what he said to you guys about the decision, so let's listen, and then we'll get your immediate reaction.
So we're making a quarterback switch here from Daniel, and we're going to go with Tommy. I spoke with all the quarterbacks this morning before our morning meeting. Let them know what the direction that we're going. Those are never easy conversations. Got a lot of respect for all three of those guys. After evaluating a bunch of things and looking at a lot of tape, and being around Tommy last year where he created a little bit of a spark for us, that's the reason why we're going with Tommy. Drew will be the backup. Continue to work with him. He's been nothing but a pro, and as was Daniel. So it's never an easy conversation to have with the players, but felt like this was a necessary move for us, and look forward to working with Tommy and getting him ready to go against Tampa.
All right, Paul, like he said, he felt like it was a necessary move. We know about the relationship he already has with Tommy DeVito. You were on the Zoom call. Just break it down for us, man. What's your initial reaction when you heard Brian Daboll say that Tommy DeVito is now going to be QB1?
Well, Brandon, look, I mean, the fact that they're benching Daniel Jones does not come as a surprise. I wrote after that terrible loss to the Panthers in Munich that it was time. Daniel Jones has got to go. It's not all his fault, but they're 2-8. Daniel Jones is not coming back next year. They will cut him and, cut ties with Daniel Jones. It's business. That's what they'll do. And so they have to look ahead and see if somebody else on this roster can be on the roster in 2025. And I always wrote it would be Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito. Now, you say, well, Drew Lock was the backup in all 10 games this year, and Tommy DeVito was the third emergency quarterback in all 10 games, inactive on game days. So why did they go from DeVito to Lock? That's the only semi-surprised. I'm not shocked by it. If he said Lock, I would say, yeah, sure, that makes sense. You go from 2 to 1, and then you go from 2, you make him the 1, and the 3 moves to the 2. What Brian Daboll did say is Daniel Jones is now the number 3 quarterback. So he will be inactive on game days, and barring anything unforeseen, he will not be seen on the field, in a game again for the Giants in the last 7 games, in the entirety of his career. Why Tommy DeVito? Couple of things. You have to go back to the summer. Drew Lock was hurt. He missed 2 preseason games with a bad hip. That really set him back. And familiarity. Brandon, when you really want to be comfortable, right? You put on those best comfortable jeans. You put on that best, hoodie sweatshirt that makes you feel comfortable. Tommy DeVito is more comfortable right now to Brian Daboll. He was with him all last year. Brian Daboll had a quick stat that between preseason and the regular season, he's played 700 snaps for the Giants. So he doesn't know what he would be getting from Drew Lock. And going all the way back to the summer, because he didn't play in those games. He was hurt for a lot of the preseason. Tommy DeVito played. He's more familiar with him. I think he likes a little bit of the moxie and that little bit of the, Tommy Cutlet stuff. So he goes to DeVito.
Yeah, and you talk about Brian Daboll not knowing what he's going to get from Drew Lock. The fans don't know what they're going to get from Drew Lock as well. And when you're talking about making this decision, Paul, I think, everyone talks about tank. You don't tank in the NFL. You make business decisions. And this is one of those business decisions. So like I said, if the record gets to a certain point and it doesn't look like there's any path to make it to the playoffs, this is where a GM, depending on how big of a name you are, the GM, the head coach, or your position coach comes up to you and says, hey, we're going to sit you down. We're going to go with the younger, cheaper option to see what we're going to get. You've had 6 years of Daniel Jones. You know what Daniel Jones is in terms of within this franchise and within this offense. Now it's time to look to see what the future could be, or at least, as you tweeted, like a placeholder until the future QB gets put in place. You mentioned something a couple weeks ago, and you kind of had me kind of reframe my way of thinking when it came to this. If Daniel Jones is starting quarterback against the Bucs, throws an interception, they go 3 and out in that first drive, that opening drive, and even you can throw Drew Lock on there, the fans will be sitting there waiting for a reason to boo. Now, making the switch to Tommy DeVito, there's a different type of fan engagement now. Now there's some sort of hope to where they're sitting there and they're waiting for Tommy Cutlets to kind of show what he showed last year when he put together some wins and some excitement. They're going to be waiting for Tommy DeVito to throw a touchdown or even Tyrone Tracy Jr. to score. Doesn't even have to be a Tommy DeVito throw to Malik Neighbors or Wan'Dale Robinson. The crowd is going to get hype. The crowd is going to let you know, Brian Daboll, Joe Shane, that you made the right decision in terms of for the fans. You're listening to the fans. They're starving for touchdowns. They're starving for excitement. Another level of that, Paul, before I get your thoughts on it again, I wonder if Brian Daboll went to the receivers, walked in there, talked to Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, these guys who have had success with Tommy DeVito last season, and is like, you know what, we can go with Locke or we can go with DeVito. Who do you guys feel more comfortable with? If I'm Jalen Hyatt, I'm going to one of the guys that unlocked my potential last year. If I'm Wan'Dale Robinson, he and Tommy DeVito, I guess they put together a 100-yard game last year for Wan'Dale Robinson. And if I'm Malik Neighbors, I'm just putting my hand up just because it's like, just give me something. This kid breeds a confidence that I feel like not only the quarterback room needed, but the offense needed, but MetLife Stadium as well. So I get the reason, the business decision to go with Tommy DeVito, Paul.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the main reason is yes, there is some of that. Look, Tommy DeVito's not going to sell hundreds and hundreds and thousands of tickets. Yes, in the beginning of the game, there'll be more excitement if Tommy DeVito was starting than if Daniel Jones was starting and if Drew Lock was starting. The fans have no allegiance to Drew Lock. Most of them don't think he's very good. He's been a very marginal starter in the NFL for his career. But that only lasts so long, right? I mean, one series, two series. Look, let's not reinvent what Tommy DeVito was last year. He went 3-3 in 6 starts. He was mostly a game manager, right? He had a 3-touchdown game against the Commanders. That was terrific. He beat the Packers, in a close game. But, he was not a lights out. Look, he was an undrafted rookie. There's nothing, you shouldn't have expected more than what you got. He threw 8 touchdown passes, only 3 interceptions. Brian Daboll kept the reins on tremendously with Tommy DeVito. Remember the second half of the game against the Jets?
Yep.
Basically no passes. We're not throwing a ball here. So, but look, I think Brian Daboll likes a little bit of that stuff that Tommy DeVito brings. That kind of Jersey swag, that kind of, you've been around Tommy. He has a little something, a little bit of confidence, a little bit of this, but don't be any under illusions that this guy's going to come in and light it up. But there is a chance that Tommy DeVito, look, you have to also look at the contractual status. Drew Lock was signed for 1 year, $5 million, right? He is not on the team next year. If he played the last 7 games and played great, maybe they bring him back at a decent amount of money to be a bridge quarterback. Tommy DeVito will be an exclusive rights free agent next year. That means if the Giants want him back, he will be back next year. They basically just tender him an offer, and Tommy DeVito can't go anywhere. So if Tommy DeVito plays well in these last 7 games, then maybe they look and say, you know what, we're going to bring him back, and he'll be a backup. He'll compete. We'll see who else we have. We're going to bring in another veteran. We're going to draft a guy in the first round, maybe draft a guy in the second round. He'll be in the mix because he deserves to be in the mix. So that's what they want to know. They know Daniel Jones is not going to be on the team in 2025. So playing him was just a waste of time at this point. So yes, the fans will be energized. And, Brian Daboll said, said things like, he said, we're shaking things up. He said, we're trying to develop Tommy the best we can. We're making this decision to try and spark things, change things up. They tried to do that in one of the games earlier this year, right, where they benched Daniel Jones early in the fourth quarter. They brought in Drew Lock just to try to get a spark, kind of like a Hail Mary. That didn't work. This likely won't work because the Giants are not a very good team. Maybe it will. But there at least is some intrigue to Tommy DeVito because we don't know much about what he can be. And I think most NFL fans think they know what Drew Lock is, and they kind of go,
But you said it. You hit it. I mean, you put it I mean, it was perfect to what you said. It's not so much about the X's and O's. He threw for 1,100 yards last year, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It's for the swagger. The offense needs some sort of swagger, and this kid pretty much walks that stereotype of the Italian jersey guy. You know, I don't know if you've ever been down to DJs down the shore, but there's a swagger that these Italian jersey guys have where it's like it'll be a packed dance floor, Paul. They'll have their muscles out with the little T-shirt on with like 16 different wristbands on and the hat backwards. They hit the dance floor and they're hitting it. They're having this energy, this swagger. This Giants offense needs that. MetLife Stadium needs that. So if Tommy DeVito can come in, just don't throw a 3-interception game. Don't do anything that you're not supposed to do. And I don't think he is, because that QB3, and he's been sitting there since last year just watching, you hear all the red ink on that, the notes that Drew Lock gets, that Daniel Jones gets. You know you've had little side talks with Daboll, just thinking, because it's like you want to stay in his ear. You know that there's a chance that you can be quarterback one like he is. You're hearing, hey, what'd you like on that? Oh, Daniel didn't go there. Daniel went here, and his eyes went there instead of there. You've got all those notes in your notebook, and you now know on this route, I'm not going to keep my eyes over to this second or third option. I'm going to get backside to Malik faster, because Daniel didn't do that, because Drew never had a chance to do that. So he's sitting back there. He's got the X's and O's in his brain. 700 plus snaps. You know NFL game speed. Now it's all about coming out there, taking over, having that swagger. You're going to get protected. The offensive line has been better. You've got run game. You've got pretty much the same receivers you had some success with last year. And now if you can truly unlock the number 6 pick of the draft, Malik Neighbors, and he gives you, if Malik Neighbors says to you guys after the game, win, lose, or draw, and he says, you know, I thought Tommy did some good things. If he says some things, he praises him, or gives him some compliments that he never gave Daniel, there it goes, right there. You put yourself in position to be the next Jersey kid, you know, as the Victor Cruz, to come in and kind of save the franchise. You may not be saving them with wins or whatever, but you've saved it in terms of hope, excitement at MetLife Stadium, because it's just, it hasn't been enough. There hasn't been enough swagger or confidence at MetLife Stadium, Paul. What else you got for us?
You mentioned the word hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hope. Okay. Now this was let me show you this, okay, and then I'll say where it was from. I don't know if you remember this. Let's see. Can we get a good shot at that? You see that?
Yeah, I see Daniel Jones. I see the word hope. Okay. Oh, okay. It's from the New York Post Sports, best sports in town. Daniel Jones delivered more than just a win to Big Blue Nation. He thought. Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So okay. So that's like a kind of, right. That's a Daniel Jones. That's a Daniel Jones back page from November 24th, 2019. Okay. 2 days after his first start. Remember, they benched Eli Manning 3 games into that season, 2019. They put Daniel Jones in, right? That hope is kind of a playoff on the Obama political ad hope, right?
Yeah.
You know, with the lighting was and everything. Okay. Not to get political here, but that's what it was, right? A little. And that was after Daniel Jones made his debut, right? It was pretty controversial to bench Eli Manning, right?
Yep.
2 games into the season, and Eli was ticked. Eli was like, he knew Daniel Jones was drafted, and he knew Daniel Jones is the future of the franchise at quarterback. But Eli was like, I thought I'd get more than 2 games here. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thought I'd get more than 2 games. Daniel Jones threw for 2 touchdown passes, ran for 2. They beat the Bucs, right, in Tampa. It was in Tampa, I think, that game, right? And
yes,
they beat Tampa. The Bucs. Right at the end, he kind of ran. The C's parted. He ran for a touchdown, 32-31. And we were all like, holy smokes, this guy looks like a bigger, stronger, younger, faster version of Eli, you know, calm, cool, collected, more athletic. Hope, right? He brought them hope. Fast forward to 2022. He's a game manager and a good one, and he runs for a lot of yards, only throws 15 touchdowns. They win 9 games in a regular season. I would just take fans back to that playoff game against the Vikings, right, where Daniel is terrific. Right. He basically, shreds the Vikings. And I know people, oh, the Vikings had a terrible defense and a terrible secondary. That's fine. But he did it. It was a playoff game, for God's sakes, and he did it. And those same fans that day, if they sat there that day and said, I'm glad the Giants won their first playoff game since 2011. I know Daniel Jones played great, but he ain't it, and we got to move on from him. Okay, kudos to that for seeing that. I didn't say that at the time. I think a lot of fans didn't. The Giants didn't say that at the time. They signed him to a 4-year contract, which was really a 2-year deal. They guaranteed him, $80 million. He's going to cash in every bit of that. So, this is, other than, we talked a lot about Tommy DeVito. This is the end of the Daniel Jones era or error, depending on how you want to say it. You know what I mean? It's been 6 years, 5.5 years, really, right? This is a 6th season. It's been long. It's been grueling. It's been tough on the eyes for the most part. He's been a good guy and a good teammate, good citizen, good Giant. He just hasn't been a good enough player. And, remember back in 2019 when Eli was benched, he talked to us about it, and then he just receded into the background, right? When the media was in there in the locker room, Eli was not in his locker. He was not going to sit there and talk to us and say how Daniel was doing. And then he ended up starting a couple of games later in the season when Daniel got hurt, and he won his last start, and he went on his merry way, and now he's Mr. Media King, right? Yep. Daniel now is the 3rd-string quarterback. He will not be active on game days. I expect to see him in the locker room on Wednesday to talk about it, and then that's it. Yeah. He will feed into the background, and maybe we'll see him after the season, and that'll be it. So this ends a pretty long, difficult chapter in Giants history. That should not be understated because he once was the face of hope for this team.
He was.
Not long enough, and it didn't work out, but that's the way it is.
Hey, at the end of the day, we like the man, we like the person, but here in New York or in professional football, professional sports, it's all about production. What have you done for me? What have you done for me lately? So now it's Tommy Cutlet's time, Paul. Hopefully he can bring that excitement that we've been talking about. We're going to have the Blue Rush preview show. It's back. We're going to be back for you guys on Thursday, so make sure you tune into that. We'll be previewing the Giants-Bucks game. But, again, Paul, thanks for making yourself available to talk to us about the Daniel Jones era ending here in New York.
Of course, look, it's a big day. It's a big day. We thought it was coming. It's a big day. They come out of their bye. They think they're going to, evaluate a lot of things. Brian Daboll also said, we're going to mix some guys in a little bit here now. So, maybe Kayvon Thibodeau comes back. But I think, this is a finishing out 2004 to look ahead to 2005. Yeah. That's why Daniel Jones is out. Tommy DeVito maybe will be in it 2025, and also other players. I'm not saying there's going to be mass changes to the starting lineup, but you're going to see it. Jalen Hyatt, I think he'll be on the field a little more now. We'll see it with some of the younger defensive players. We'll see it because at 2-8, they got to start evaluating for next season. And I don't think the hard times are gone. I think they'll be, and also don't forget 2 games in 4 days coming after Sunday. You got the Bucks, who are a good team, a little bit banged up, but a good team. They can score. And then you have on Thanksgiving the Cowboys. They're all beaten up. They're on their 2nd or 3rd string quarterback, right? That'll be a heck of a Thanksgiving day. Tommy DeVito against Cooper Rush. Go for it. Go for it and pass those sweet potatoes. That's all I have to say.
I love it. Absolutely love it. But thank you guys for watching.